Well, Festivus was a week ago, but I still have some problems with you people, and you're going to hear about it after we get Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hey, what do you say? It's Locked On Twins, and we're back here today. I'm your host, Brandon Warren. You can unfollow me on the tweets at Brandon_WARNE. Follow me over on the Skeets on Blue Sky at warren.bsky.social. And while you're there, give old Dave Brown at Answer Dave, old with a comma or a parenthesis or whatever, apostrophe, not OLD. We didn't say the hard D for old, but conspicuous, no, not conspicuous by his absence, conspicuous by his presence is Mr. Dave Brown at Answer Dave Brown on the tweets, answerdave.bsky.social on the Skeets. What up?
Brandon, I'm eager to hear what issues you have with the world in the form of a Festivus argument grievance for the new year. I had fun with mine yesterday, and I look forward, like I said, to seeing what you find wrong with you people.
And I commend you to committing to the bit with that Festivus poll behind you. That's what that is, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so
we can imagine it that way. Sure,
we'll call it that. Well,
that's a lamp, but
thank you for being here, both you, Dave Brown, and the listeners to Locked On Twins, making this your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, and of course, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we're your team every day. And please feel free to be active in the comments, whether you're watching us on the YouTube premiere or if you're watching us after the fact or listening on your favorite podcast provider. Just give us a shout, give us a thumbs up, give us a 5-star review. You know what? I still stand by it that if you give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and show me that you are subscribed to us on YouTube, I'll send you a care package of some sports cards. And if you show me that you have Locked On Twins in your year-end Spotify Wrapped or something of that nature, I will do the same. So if you show me all of those things, bully for you, I'll make sure you are well compensated. But we love to know that you love the show and that we love you back. So love to hear from you one way, shape, or form. Also, I want to hear your grievances too. If we get grievances in the comments, maybe we could address those at a further later date. Today's episode, by the way, is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Obviously, as a Minnesota sports fan, I am very eager to watch the Vikings and Lions next Sunday night, but I suspect Packers and Bears might not be as exciting for you, Dave.
No, I have absolutely I have an interest in avoiding the results of that game. I don't have any interest in, I hope they all come through, all the players come through healthy. But I suppose in terms of what the draft pick is going to be, the draft picks for next year, there's some interest. So It's not that I'm rooting for the Bears to lose, but I'm certainly not rooting for them to win.
One of my favorite things that someone pointed out on Twitter that, and again, this isn't Locked On Bears, so I'm not trying to steal their proverbial thunder, was that
Heaven forbid.
It's kind of been like an interlocking thing where the team hires a new GM, but he doesn't pick his quarterback. The GM gets fired. The new GM comes in. He picks his quarterback, but doesn't pick his head coach. Head coach doesn't pick his quarterback. And like they're in this continuous cycle of it never being unified. This is our guy, or this is my guy, this is my guy, this is my guy, like a chain of nesting dolls where they all come together as one unified group of leaders and that sort of thing. So I don't know. To me, as an outside observer, that's quite funny. Anyway, though, we are here today to air my grievances for your Minnesota Twins. And the first one, the one that I would find myself yanking my hair out every single night, as I still got pretty good head of hair up here, but play to your talent level, guys. And it was just so frustrating. It seemed like Now, I don't necessarily ascribe to what most people call situational baseball, as far as like you gotta hit behind the runner and you gotta hit the ball. If you're gonna make contact, you gotta pull the ball with a runner on second base. I know why all that exists. I understand the background of situational baseball. I just don't agree with it, because if I am at the plate and I take a swing and I'm saying I either need to get a hit or pull the ball, I've completely shut off one side of the field. The outcomes of a plate appearance are not get a hit or make this kind of out. Like you are not processing every part of a plate appearance in that manner. If you hit the ball hard the other way, that's not like saying in the middle of your swing, oh, well, this isn't going hard the other way. It's not going hard pull. I can at least put it on the ground. Like I've never understood the idea of if you're going to make an out, it's got to be this. And so I feel like you turn off too many positive outcomes by saying, I got to hit a grounder to second, got to hit a grounder to second, got to hit a grounder to second. You just as easily could have pinch hit Max Kepler in that spot. But when it comes to situational baseball where the Twins bothered me, I can think of no better example than Manuel Margot going 0 for 69 pinch hitting this year and just being just an incredible letdown. And again, like the data will say a pinch hitter, pinch hitting is obviously a very hard thing to do. You look at the data across the league and very few players are good at it because of what it entails. But it's like the Twins would play a matchup. They would play a percentage, a tendency, It felt like very rarely to me did the Vikings doing what the Vikings, I got Vikings on the brain. Did the Twins doing what the data said actually bear out in results? Now, again, it's a game where there's going to be a lot of failure, and that's to be, assumed. But I guess it just maybe my frustration comes from how fans deal with decisions not going the way they should, even though the process was sound. Manuel Margot hitting against a lefty instead of Brooks Lee, for instance, just a random example. And so I think the fact that a team with Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa, and Royce Lewis won 82 games or whatever it was, barely over 500, pitching staff that is as good as any in the division, if not the entire AL, won that many games. I think that juxtaposed with the fact that, like, I was watching this highlight the other day because it came up in my feed of Bobby Witt Jr. fielding a grounder, and then he turned into like a JV shortstop, threw the ball past the first baseman, and wouldn't you know it, it was in Cleveland. It felt like every time I saw a break for Cleveland, I'm just like, those never happen for the Twins. The Twins always seem to be shooting themselves in the foot. Why is this? And I'm fed up with the Twins playing beneath their talent level, beneath how they're built. You look at this roster right now. This roster right now would be twice as talented as some of the full season rosters when the Twins were really crappy like 10 years ago. Like, they are in a good spot. You can't deny that. You can't say that they aren't one of the most talented teams, definitely in the division, maybe even in the league. But they leave so much meat on the bone. This division should have been theirs this year. It should be theirs this year again, coming up. And that's one of my peak frustrations. One of my biggest problems is the Twins just not playing to their level of capabilities.
I think we have talked about this before in certain contexts, and I want to bring up this possibility. We give benefit of the doubt to the coaching staff probably more often than not. I think we like how Rocco generally handles the team, just in terms of the personalities and getting them from February to October. I think most of a manager's job is tied up in that. And we seem to like Pete Mackey and the pitching staff. They did just change hitting coaches, so there's some discontent with that within the organization, how that's going, and maybe that's where most of your questions come from. But is there something that we are actually missing in how Rocco handles the team that is not getting the most out of these players? Or is it just a lot of a season full of bad luck?
Are you asking? I didn't know if you had I guess
that's the question. Is there something about how Rocco is handling the team, or is it something else?
I mean, I guess
is bringing back these diminishing returns.
What bothers me too, though, is how many people speak authoritatively on how these things the Twins are doing wrong. Whether it's Rocco's laissez-faire attitude toward, like the nap room they talked about, and letting guys show and go on after late nights, early morning games coming up, and that sort of thing. And it's like, I really think it's just hysterical to me how authoritatively otherwise dumb people speak about this kind of stuff. And I include myself as otherwise dumb, but then to be fair, I am also the first person in the room to say, I don't know. And I'm comfortable saying, I don't know. Someone says, well, what is this guy doing wrong? And it's like, I don't know. Why is Manuel Margot not getting hits when he's facing pitchers he should be at least decent against? I don't know. And I'm not saying that as a cop-out. I'm saying all the information that we have available at our fingertips, which is nothing to say of the information they have available organizationally, says this should work. Suddenly, Kyle Farmer can't hit water falling out of a boat. Christian Vasquez, all the same. And you never expected all that much from those guys, and they still couldn't match that level of production. They couldn't at least do the thing that put them on the roster well. Margot is probably in a lifeboat all unto his own in that regard. Caleb Thielbar becoming extremely hittable at the worst possible time. There were so many of those things that no matter how you prepare in a season, you're going to have to deal with things you couldn't have seen coming one way or the other. If you build a lineup based on platoons and one of your big platoon guys gets hurt, that kind of throws everything into shambles most of the time. You're finding that you have to all of a sudden play Manuel Margot against righties or Matt Wallner against lefties. And so the best laid plans can fall apart easily. And I feel like the Twins have had some adversity, but I still feel like with how they've been built, the kind of depth they have, even down into their 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th position players on the roster, they have not played to their level of talent, expectation, capability. And it's immensely frustrating to me. And I think that there have been too many years under this regime that's happened. 2018 was another one. And that was under not Rocco Baldelli, but Derek Falvey and then Thad Levine. And so I think it kind of just leaves you wondering, like, what is that's missing? Because that was under Paul Molitor. This one was under Rocco. There have been other ones under Rocco. So is there something about how Derek Falvey builds a baseball team that's not always going to catch? Like, do what it's supposed to? I don't know the answer, but I'm sick of seeing underachieving teams that are some of the most talented Twins teams I've seen in my lifetime.
Conversely, on this point, maybe the last part of it that I'll engage with, at least for 2024, I asked rhetorically, but not necessarily, where were the overachievers? Where were the guys on the roster who did a little better than they probably should have? I would say, I don't know if Matt Wallner, his numbers were spectacular, really. He missed a bunch of time in the minor leagues and so forth, but I don't know if there were any. Santana maybe
Willie Castro. And
last year, I mean, that was the first half, maybe, but not in the second.
He was a tale of two seasons. I mean, he really was, and it was the overachiever mitigated by the underachiever. And I almost had a grievance against him. Like, you know what? I hate to say it, but I'm done with Willie Castro. I really am.
Maybe you should be, as a player who plays almost every inning. I think we talked about a guy who maybe was overexposed, played a bit too much last year, was relied upon too much. And some of that too was, you had injuries early to Buxton and to Correa, and you kind of had to play him. And that had something to do with it too. But there was not a lot of teammates making up for the inadequacies of other teammates during, they didn't have a lot of that. Miranda in the second half was terrible. The kids that they brought up didn't really, they weren't necessarily bad, but they didn't, Edward Julian's 2023, nowhere to be found this year. The Twins did not have a lot of, I don't want to call it luck, but they didn't have a lot of players who made up for the players who weren't around. There wasn't a lot of, when Correa wasn't in the lineup, there wasn't a lot of help, making things better. It was noticeable that he was gone, and that kind of thing pervaded the season.
All right. Well, let's take our first break. When we come back, I'm going to dive into a little bit more on Willie, just because it kind of goes in with my second grievance. So we'll do that here after a quick moment. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Because that definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year or in the new year. We're coming up on some resolutions, but Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year using all of the app's premium features. So if it's a streaming service, if you're paying for music, it's to find things that you didn't even know you were still doing. You got that radio out in the car, all that fun stuff. If you're still paying for it and you don't want to be, Rocket Money will find them and they'll help cancel them for you. And they'll also help you just renegotiate cheaper rates too. Highly, highly recommended. For me, though, that subscription tracker was huge. Plus, with their goals feature, I was able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. So Willie Castro, you can see why he endears himself to a manager, because he's he's never Mr. Right, but he is Mr. Right now. He's there whenever you need him. But what I see, and it's so strange to me that we can have these discussions about a team that for like 3 months was the best team in baseball, like over a specific 3 months, not the first or the last 3 months, obviously not the last 3 months. But I think of Willie Castro as a player I would rather be out on too early than too late. I think you can trade him for something of value. And when I watch him play, I think of a player whose physical gifts outweigh his physical talent or his acumen or his like how he plays the game. I don't know that he puts himself in the best positions to succeed, especially at the plate. I don't like the approach. He did take 51 walks last year, but struck out 150 times. And those raw numbers to me don't mean that much without plate appearances and all that stuff. But I just feel like it's far too often he's up there in a reasonably big spot and he falls behind 0-2 chasing, he'll take a good pitch and then swing at a fastball at his neck or a curveball that's 3 feet outside. And it shifts the energy of the inning. And again, it's probably not necessarily something that I can back statistically, but I don't need to see it anymore. I would rather see Brooks Lee take utility infielder reps and figure it out, or I mean, Austin Martin, you got to figure out what you have in Austin Martin. He's physically, it's not like he's going to get that much bigger or stronger. He's the size of the guy he is. What's his ceiling? How do I figure that out if Willie Castro is playing in front of him? And with that said, you're not keeping Willie Castro after free agency anyway. If you get out and out a year early, you can. I'm not saying you're going to pull like a Cleveland Guardians trick of Josh Naylor out, a pretty interesting pitching prospect in, and then you sign Carlos Santana as your fill. And you're not going to bring in the Carlos Santana of Willie Castro's, if that's even a real thing. But I've seen enough of Willie Castro, and I don't think I need to see any more.
I wonder a couple things about your feelings on this. First off, I wonder if they were going to do a Josh Naylor type of trade, should that have come before 2024 season? Before, obviously you're not going to do it at the All-Star break with Willie Castro being an All-Star, but did a lot of that value evaporate after this season had come and gone? Two, I wonder if your feelings about Willie as a piece, as a part of the machine for the Twins in the present, you kind of souring on him a little bit, has something to do with how the front office has approached this offseason.
Yep.
How the so the answer is yes. So we can move on. No, but seriously, it doesn't appear that they're moving toward trying to be a contender in 2025. So why not deal some of these parts for the future, do a little bit of a mini reset, and get something for Willie while you can?
So a few things. I mean, the inactivity is not just to Twin comers, but outgoers too. There have been 3 big league deals signed by players who played for the Twins this year, totaling right around $25 million. 12 or so to Carlos Santana, 10 to Max Kepler, and 3 to Kyle Farmer. None of those guys, I don't think the Twins were going to be all that attached to. I mean, maybe Santana more than the others, which is crazy when you think about how long Kepler was in the organization. But if you look on Roster Resource, love Roster Resource over at Fangraphs, the latest roster moves, the Twins have, I think they list 10, and the first one on the list, the furthest back that still shows up, is Daniel Duarte agreeing to a minor league contract on November 6th. That's a week after Halloween. You have Marco Raya and Travis Adams contracts selected. Okay, those are standard moves. You still somehow did less adding players to the 40-man roster. Michael Tonkin, Brock Stewart, Justin Topa all agreeing to contracts for next year. Again, not huge moves. You had those guys under club control. You just avoided arbitration. Huascar Inua signing a minor league deal. The odds that he pitches in the major leagues this year, probably not crazy high. Aberson Castellano in the Rule 5, and then the Giovanni Moran for Mickey Gasper trade. That is all the Twins have done this offseason. Do something. I need to, and again, I am not prone to overreaction. I am not prone to that whole, the first moves you make are the biggest ones, and then it cascades down to your finishing moves, your minor league contracts, and your backup catchers are in February. Now that can happen that way. It's just I'm not that singular minded where I believe everything has to be a certain way. But this is ridiculous. As we said on the most recent edition of this show, the division is there not only for the taking, but somehow after winning 82 games, it's almost as though the Twins in 4th place should still feel like they're defending the division. Because based on talent, this team is right there right now, having done nothing. They are right there. The Guardians traded Josh Naylor. They took on Carlos Santana, who at 39 or going into his being 39 here this upcoming year. That's a very clunky phrasing, and I apologize.
It's funny though.
But I mean, they have not added in any way that should terrify you. They brought back Shane Bieber, but their rotation is still vulnerable to start the season. They brought back Tristan McKenzie, who we thought they might non-tender if possibly. The White Sox are not to be even worried about. The Royals are doing a few things. Tigers not doing that much. They could sign Alex Bregman, which would... I mean, I still think they played over their heads at 86 wins anyway, and I don't think that they... I think if they sign Bregman, they become a conversation starter for the Central, but I still don't think that they're far and away better than the Twins at all. The Twins need to do something, anything. I'm just sick of hearing everybody else do something and not the Twins.
I bet you that if the Tigers did happen to sign Alex Bregman, that it would increase the angst.
Yes.
1,000%. It would give us something. It certainly would give us something, another topic for a show to complain about, even though it would be kind of the same topic that we've had before, that we're just upset that the Twins are not doing anything. I wonder if Falvey, who has not made any great trades lately, or really any moves of any kind, has not sort of made a rationalization in his heart about getting back to what you were saying a minute or so ago about how the division is still the Twins for the taking. You look at what the other teams have done, a lot of subtraction on the part of the Guardians, really, and not a lot of forward movement by the other teams, and the Twins coming off kind of an underachieving season, and Falvey being handcuffed by ownership, whoever it is, putting sort of his ability to make moves in the brig for a while. He's unable to make moves, but he can rationalize it by saying, you know what? The rest of the Central is not getting away from us. In fact, it's coming back to us a little bit. We're going to rise. We know this. I can be late. I can wait around to make these moves, to make the moves that I want to make, and we're still contending. I hate to look at it as like justifying this inactivity, but I wonder if that is going through his head right now. He's like, you know what? I don't have to panic. I'm gonna call it panic by making all these moves because we're still right there. Yeah. We're waiting for possible new ownership to take over when we get and then we'll get a green light to make some more moves. And we can, because we are not that far off from being the best team in this division. We might be anyway right now as we speak.
It's a viewpoint that I definitely could see myself holding if I could calm down a little bit, because that's about where my mind frame rests, is wait and see, wait and see, wait and see. So yeah, well, the culprits of this whole thing is are the Pohlad family, and where a lot of my angst comes from is them crying poor. We'll close out this edition when we come back with some talk about why it's hysterical that they are saying we can't spend any more money. Are you rocking with FanDuel yet? Because if you're not, now is the perfect time, because you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet hits. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. Check out that FanDuel app. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, we're coming down the home stretch here. It's Locked On Twins, and we're airing my grievances. If you missed Dave's that came out, 16 hours ago, I would say go back and check those Apple Podcasts. Make sure you hit that subscribe button while you're over there, or if you're watching them on YouTube, also love to have you over there. Hit a subscribe, like, thumbs up, all that fun stuff. So the poor lads, and I've been calling them the poor lads because whatever, I have no no qualms about poking fun at them right now with what they've done to my baseball team. Crying poor. We have to right size our budget and all that. When the Twins opened Target Field in 2010, their payroll jumped $32 million from 24th in the major leagues to 10th. In 2011, it took another jump to 9th. That's the highest it's been since the turn of the century in the COTS contracts tracking era over at Baseball Prospectus. Shout out Jeff Houston, by the way. He does a great job with that. So the Twins in 2011, if people forget, lost 99 games and were dreadful, and that was the draft pick they used to pick this guy named Byron Buxton. Oh, and by the way, the Twins have the guy in front of them too, Carlos Correa. And if they really wanted to be funny, they could have signed the guy right behind them. But Mike Zunino took his ball home and retired. So tough luck. But in 2012, the Twins dropped back to 11th. They went from 113 and change to 100. In 2013, they went to 82 million, 21st. In 2014, 85 million, 18th. In 2015, 108 million, 19th. And they stayed in that 19th, 20th, 18th ether until 2021 when they were 16th. 2022, they were 18th. 2022 would have been Correa's first year, right? 3-year with opt-outs.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
And then 17th in 2023, 153 million, high water mark for the club. And then last year fell back to 127, 26 million down or thereabouts. When I think about how I not defended, but definitely rationalized not spending money in 2011, after 2011, I covered the team fully in 2013. They had an $82 million payroll, 21st in MLB. They lost, I think it was like 97 games that year. And I said, listen, adding to this payroll, the 18 million that you did not spend from 2012 when you were also very, very bad, would not be the difference between losing 97 games and winning 97 games, or winning 87 games, or even winning 77 games. 18 million on the free market in 2013-ish was like a number 3 starter. They got Ricky Nolasco there for a bit. They signed Irvin Santana. The sort of pitcher you could get back then, it was decent. You could get a decent starter for 4 years and 48 million. 4 years and 60, if you really wanted to kick it up a notch, would get you like a Phil Hughes caliber, workhorse number 3 kind of guy. But I said, and I still think I believe it, at least now I feel kind of duped, was, all right, well, if you don't spend that money now, spend it in the future. There's no point in spending it now. Now, again, I placed my faith in billionaires doing the right thing financially. And again, that's probably going to be egg on my face that stays there for a very long time. But they did reinvest some of that in signing Carlos Correa, not once, but twice. And I'll give them credit for that. But they also shed the Joe Mauer contract going into 2019. They also have employed a front office that has been very efficient at how they hand out contracts and money. It is inexcusable for the team to have cut their budget almost $30 million last year, and to stay at that number this year. There's a lot of, you could write a book about what I don't understand about team finances. And honestly, that's applicable to everybody really, because of how those things are kind of kept under lock and key. But I have no time to hear, well, this revenue source fell through, or this revenue source fell through. I don't care. You've made money hand over fist. Your father bought the team 40 some odd years ago for what, $18 million or some dumb thing. I know business is hard out there elsewhere as far as their car dealerships or whatever. But again, like, just if you can't make money in Major League Baseball, and you can't at least feign that you're trying, get out of the game. And I mean, granted, that's what they're doing. They're trying to. Or maybe they're going to do a we tried to sell the team too, and they're just going to drive it back into the Metrodome days. And you know what? I've never been we were promised this when Target Field opened. And I tabled that when they stunk. But now is the time to put that money into the team, to sign that extra player or trade for that extra player and extend that extra player. You've already blown through 1 year that you screwed over by doing this nonsense. Don't make it another year. It's unacceptable. And that's maybe my biggest grievance is how this team is being run from the top down by ownership. It's unacceptable to do this financially.
You made a lot of good points. One of them, I think, was your reference to what contracts cost 10 years ago, 15 years ago, for a starting pitcher, X amount of money. There's a scene. It's not a baseball movie, but it is a sports movie. It's called Slapshot.
Well, not
there's a line in Slapshot where the general manager is explaining finances to the Paul Newman, Reggie Dunlop player, Joe McGrath. And he goes, "You see this quarter? It used to be a nickel." And that is inflation in a nutshell.
Yeah.
You are so right about not just Twins ownership, but any ownership who's been at the helm for as long as they have. These player contracts that they're giving out now are not nothing, but they're very much reduced in value to where they were 10 years ago. It seems like they're more money, but they're not necessarily. We went over the 100 million, 150 million, 200 million barrier a long time ago with contracts.
15, 20 years.
And it's just they're not paying them as much as they used to. They have the money. These guys have the money. They're choosing not to spend it. They're being cheap. It sounds cheap to just hurl that at them. And it is, I suppose, a bit of an oversimplification because there are things about running this business and running a baseball team that you and I are not all that versed in. I freely admit it. But I also know this basic tenet of economics that the quarter used to be a nickel not that long ago. They have the money. They're not spending it. They're trying to, they're being greedy. They're trying to absolutely squeeze as much blood out of the turnip as they can. And the fans have every right to be PO'd at how the Pohlads are conducting business. And the Twins, I mean, it's not the only team where this is going on, but to hold the rest of the organization, the people who work for you, hostage, and the fans, not to mention them, because you need to make every last dime on the sale of the team, is a pathetic injustice for Minnesota sports fans, and it upsets me to no end.
All over an amount of money that if you dug in their couch cushions, you'd probably find. So it's penny wise, pound very foolish. That's all I got. I'm gonna go run and perform some feats of strength on my kids, maybe on their trampolines, and we'll wrestle a little bit. Finish off our delayed Festivus celebration for the rest of us. But he's Dave Brown. I'm Brandon Warren, saying thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see ya
tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
Not you, Pohlads.
No,
you can't come over.